I recently wrote something on my blog about phrasing and its vertical and horizontal aspects. Um, and so I have my trombone here, so I just want to maybe talk about that a little bit and demonstrate some things that I think about with that. You know, in the great Oriental sciences of medicine and thought, a lot of times you'll hear the word yin and yang, the great duality that we can't escape as we're alive in this universe. There's always something pulling out something else, something causing a different set of balances on something else. There's always an interplay of at least two things, and as we know, as we know, a lot other things get involved as well, just not two. But it's based on those two things creating more, creating more, creating more. And the reason why I bring that up is vertical and horizontal is another aspect of looking at yin and yang. It's another aspect of having the balances, for example, in our music making, come together in such a way that we have both aspects going on at one time, so we can create a line, even at its basic architectural level. So, yin and yang, vertical and horizontal. I encourage you to read the blog because I said a couple of things on there that are important. But let's take this very well-known trombone solo. And by the way, if it looks like I'm playing the trombone opposite to the way most people play it, it's not really true. It's just that I haven't yet figured out how to change the mechanism around in my camera on my computer. I'm sure there's a way to do it. But I'm actually playing the trombone. This is my left side, even though it doesn't look that way to you. You're looking at me as if you're looking at me in a mirror. Okay, so here we go. So you take that beautiful melody from Morso Symphony, probably one of the most played trombone solos in the world, and there's a lot of different aspects to it. Now, what do we mean by vertical and horizontal with looking at Morso Symphonique? Right away, in our very first interval of that minor sixth, it's kind of a big vertical jump. And so the tendency, especially in younger players, is not to have the command over the embouchure and the air support, to have those connected. So the G flat, for example, just doesn't jump out really, really abruptly. And that creates sharp angles in our phrasing, which could lead us to not have a very long line because we're having all of these jumps and all of these vertical, abrupt, which can be abrupt changes. How to make something like that smooth is what happens after the G flat too. How can we continue what we created? So we have kind of the first step in a good architectural line is a certain kind of rainbow aspect. Now, I just want to say that people can get the knack of having a very good rainbow aspect to their phrasing if they have very fine embouchures and basic good air control. That isn't great music making, in my view, just because you can have a beautiful rainbow. It says you have command over the instrument and you've learned how to shape and place notes to create that effect. It doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from a deep connected place within the music itself. So I wanted to say that. You're probably not surprised I would say that. But looking at the basic architecture is excellent as well. So if I was going to play that a little bit more vertical, it might sound like this. Now you can even hear with those dotted eighths and sixteenths, which I've heard many people play their Rochou exercises, the Melodious Etudes, the Bordonis. And when it comes to dotted eighths and sixteenths, or that kind of a pattern, all of a sudden, they don't want to play legato. They get very march-like. It's hard to fit certain figures into our concept of what would be legato or what would be a long line. It depends on where something's going. And this is where a certain kind of planning can be very, very useful in phrasing. Just like a great architect or anyone who's going to build a house has a basic blueprint of what they're going to do, to show them, well, we're going to go here, we're going to do this, and they have a map of where they're going. That's great. I think it's important to have that. And then if you're connected to the sentiment of the music, you'll have something unique happen each time, even though you have a basic plan. So you have the planned and the unplanned. You have the vertical and the horizontal. You have the technical and the emotional sentiment. So you can see that these opposites, apparent opposites, are always at play. Now, given that, someone could say, well, that legato line is, in a certain way, easier to think of as longer. What about then doing the second part of that solo? That scale, again, one could see where it could be very easy to make a longer line out of it, especially if they know where they're going after hitting the top note. Because you could go a little exaggerated, but every time something goes up is to kind of go for it like this. Now in that one you could feel that the whole thing was moving towards, and the top note wasn't just banging out, but there was some connection to the peak and then follow through. And so it's one great exercise is practicing what I call microscopic decrescendos and microscopic crescendos. Hear the little decrescendo? I was going da, and each time getting smaller and smaller, but just by a little increment that I had in my mind. I thought mezzo forte minus, mezzo piano plus, and mezzo piano. So you can do the reverse with a crescendo. Okay? And the more control you get into the subtle realms, you will be able to sense how to make these little nuances have shape and length of line. Length of line. And if you noticed on that last one, it goes all the way to the end. Vertical and horizontal. Think about it.